Also, I think you're going to love this show. I sat down with Sarah, who's an entrepreneur in the community, does a lot of work with youths, and I was a judge at one of her programs and was just blown away by the kids, and she wanted to talk about how does she develop that, so awareness in her community for the young entrepreneurs, and also how does she build a business model around a nonprofit and not only just depend on government sponsorship or grants or other businesses, but really get a revenue engine built out in their business. So we go deep on that. We talk about value, we talk about the right structure, we talk about kind of reverse engineering the network and the graft within the community to get to the right people that are going to get the message out there.
This guy.
All right, Sarah, I'm not going to touch my phone. Yes, I will. I'm lying. How's it going? It's good to see you. Why has it been so long since we've...
Summer, I
really?
guess. Yeah.
No, we got to fix that. Anyways.
I'm okay with that.
What are we talking about today?
Today, I'm hoping that I can get some insight from you on how to create sustainable and scalableness.
Those are two of my favorite words.
I know.
And
they're mine too.
Repeatable is another one I like.
Yeah.
For what business?
For the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge.
Okay, cool. For YEC. Are you going to rebrand it? You mentioned that might...
So what we did, we worked with a branding company this summer, Natalie Davison actually.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, she did phenomenal work, and they actually recommended against changing the name, but you can see that we changed the logo.
Okay, so different logo.
Different logo,
What
we
was
have more
wrong
clarity.
with what was off about the other logo?
The other logo was like a little bonhomme that just had his hands in the air.
Yeah.
And so there was no real clarity or consistency.
I like that word too.
Yeah,
Clarity
I know.
is a good word.
Yeah. I'm just using all your favorite words.
Yes, perfect.
Dan Dictionary.
Yeah. Do you have the lexicon? It's like, oh, Dan's favorite words.
Yeah.
Cool. So YEC, why did you start YEC? Let's go back to what problem were you trying to solve in the community?
Well, so I inherited an event called the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge, and it was all about business plans. And I have an aversion to a business plan.
Yeah.
What's
wrong with a business plan?
You put in a whole bunch of work and you never look at it again.
Yeah. It's a guess plan.
Yeah. Like I'm not a fan of assumptions.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of
I thought
big
you meant
documents.
Assumption, the company. I was like, really?
No, they're great.
Do tell me more. Which specific person? Okay, so the problem with business plans from your point of view is that it's a document riddled with assumptions that nobody ever uses it to guide the business.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm all about action plans, visual sort of stuff. So Lean Canvas, Business Model Canvas are two of our biggest tools that we use.
Incredible tools, yeah.
And so I inherited an event all about the business plan, and I sort of was like, no, we need to be rewarding young people who are doing stuff or who want to do things and teach them how. And
the
doers.
The little doers.
Yeah.
What's the age?
So we do 5 to 25.
5 to 25.
It's pretty vast.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot younger. Why is it 25? Was it always 25?
Actually used to be 35.
So then the event that I was at, that was different?
No, we
Those
were
are 25-year-olds?
No.
I was like, geez.
Most of them were 12.
Yeah.
Some of the best stuff comes out of the middle school, early high school age, but we just leave it open to 25. Because the idea is it's youth or more embryonic stage of entrepreneur.
Cool.
So either younger or maybe they're just discovering entrepreneurship.
So you had the problem, you inherited this organization. Were they doing business plans prior?
They were only doing business plans
got it. You
in
revamped
entrepreneurship
it
classes.
to more lean methods of building companies.
Yeah.
Did you change the age groups of it?
I've tweaked it a little bit. At first it was just high school students, now it's 5 to 25.
Cool.
Really to meet the need of people who are creative, innovative, they see chaos, they want to run into it and solve it, and to give them a sort of roadmap on how to do something with their ideas.
Yeah. Okay, and if we were to kind of walk away from this and you were like, man, that was an incredible conversation, what would you have gotten from this conversation?
Well, so we're a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
Revenue-wise, we function as most not-for-profits do.
Yeah.
A lot of government funding.
Government funding.
Yeah, exactly. So we've gone from 100% government funding down to 50, which I'm really proud of. I want to go even lower and lower. I want to create a revenue structure. I want a revenue structure that resembles a for-profit organization, but functions as a not-for-profit.
Cool.
So
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So if we fast forward 5 years, or even 3, because that's probably a better horizon, what do you see YEC looking like in 3 years?
We did this summer. I really see the YEC being a curator of opportunities. So we want young people to be able to, they have an idea, they get in touch with us via our website, Facebook, et cetera, and we're able to immediately connect them to the people that they need to be connected to, or the events or the opportunities that they can connect to be able to execute on that.
Do you
and
find
do it at an accelerated rate.
so there's two sides to it. There's the supply and the demand side. Do you feel like getting access to demand of young kids is an issue?
No.
Okay, so the hard part then is getting them access to great resources.
The matching process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is it the matching for finding those people in those communities, or actually the man hours putting into trying to figure out the right matching?
I would say it's creating the funnel.
Okay.
The funnel is the biggest issue.
Okay, the funnel on the demand side or the funnel on the supply side? Supply being the resources that they need.
Both.
Okay, so there is an issue with getting kids to be self-aware enough to know that they need something like
They're
YEC.
there and they're aware, but because most of them are under 18, creating a funnel that is effective and not invasive.
Yeah. What does invasive mean?
Well, I mean, when you're working with kids, you just have to be careful of any sort of, you can't sell to children, right? You can offer an opportunity, and if it matches with what they want and their guardians want, then that's great.
Yeah.
And so finding out what the steps are for that funnel is really the challenge on that side.
So really to me, it sounds like the communities are ready to support if there was enough of a demand that you could point to and say, we have X kids ready for mentorship, guidance, etc. I for my whole life, have been frustrated with this problem because most kids don't self-identify as entrepreneurs. They don't know another entrepreneur. I didn't know another entrepreneur except for my neighbor Wayne, and he never called himself that. I just was like, well, he owns a hotel, grocery store. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's a businessman.
Yeah.
And like that was what I had to look towards, which, as we know, that's different than somebody that's kind of like a bit more of an entrepreneur. He was kind of like happily unemployable, and he kind of made money whatever way he could. Like buying stuff and selling at a flea market. Like he just did stuff to make money, but he didn't have. There was no strategy. There was no. So how do you get the? I mean, and I think that's the kid. To me, it's the competition, which you guys do really well. See, the competition is such an opportunity because if a parent, a guardian, an elder looks at a child and sees that innate in their DNA, and they also hear about the competition, then they're the guide to say, hey, you should really give this a chance.
Absolutely. Every time.
So to me, the supply side or the demand side of getting more kids is really focused on amplification of the contest.
Yeah.
The more you can get the contest, do you have a different kind of offer you want to put forward?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I think what we're great at is the celebration.
Yeah.
So the contest and the event, right?
Yeah.
I think that...
How many kids applied last time?
We had 62 applications, and I think that was about 300 and something kids.
Okay, so 300 kids. In 3 years, what would you want that number to be?
I mean, I want it to be something that every kid who has any sort of creative bone in their body is applying to.
Yeah, but see, they're not. This is the interesting part, is that they won't self-identify without that adult saying, "This is for you."
Yeah.
Like that's just like that's like the way their brain works.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you could wish that isn't true, but that's not going to change it. Like at the end of the day, you know, and I've seen it with my own kids. Like there's a reason my kids play hockey. Because I was like, hey, that would be really fun. But if I dismissed it, they wouldn't be playing hockey. You know what I mean? Like I think people underestimate like how much an adult guides
for sure.
kids in a direction.
Yeah.
Right? So then here's the way I think about it. So if you assume, because I'm always kind of like trying to reverse engineer the players, right? We're just focused on the demand side, which is the kids, and then the supply will come too. So, one thing I like to ask myself in kind of like awareness stages is who currently sells to these people and what do those kind of people buy? Because it's actually not the kids. I know the kids are the byproducts, but before you get to the kids, you need to get to the adults.
Yeah.
So what kind of adult is actually influential enough to a group of kids that are are aware of this? Like I remember when you asked me to judge, I was like, what is
this?
Yeah, how have we not been friends? I think I said that, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this for a while. So clearly there's a percentage of the market that are still unaware of YEC.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, huge percentage.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's call it 5. How do we get to 50?
Right.
So if in 3 years we got to 50, that would be a huge win because it's a 10x.
Right, okay.
Right? So then how do we do that? What are your thoughts?
I mean,
and let's do this. Let's be clear on who that is, because that's like step one. Is if we don't get clear on who the person is, then all the strategies don't match. So who are the influencers in the community that have the ear of children, kids? People are paying attention to them.
Well, we've been going off of the assumption, to bring up assumptions again, that it's either parents or teachers.
Yes.
The path of least resistance is teachers.
Yes.
Because
they have
mass
multiple
contact.
one-to-many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to get their contact information.
I actually don't think it's the parents.
Okay.
Because if the parent isn't an entrepreneur, it's going to be really tough for them to guide the kids.
Yeah.
Kind of like me that doesn't play hockey. It's really weird that my kids play hockey, but it's not now that you know that I'm from Canada, because you can't not play. Thank you so much. It's funny. This is how much I don't play hockey. Like, I don't even have skates. So I brought my kids skating on Sunday,
Okay.
and I was the only adult on the open skate ice in
boots.
jeans. No, not in boots. My kicks, my sneakers, and my jeans. My kid was wearing jeans as well, while all the other kids are wearing snow outfits. But he's learning how to skate.
Yeah.
That's not normal. But if I were to say, like, how do I get in front of the parents that are influencing the kids, I would say, who are all the adults that play hockey? Because even if they're not the parent, they're the uncle, the cousin.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing I'd love your thoughts are, is it the entrepreneurs?
I think so.
I believe so. I mean, they're the ones that see these kids do these entrepreneurial activities that the kid doesn't self-identify, like trying to sell them a painting they made.
Yeah.
That goes, wow, you're really good at painting and selling stuff. You should consider this event.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point because
I hope you don't mind.
No, of course.
Okay, cool.
Last year I would say we had the most engagement from the community that we've ever had.
Community.
From all sides of the community.
Perfect. Government, everybody.
But I believe that it started with the entrepreneurial community because they started talking about it.
Yeah, here's the thing is, like, the fun part of today's world is we have audiences, right? Like entrepreneurs. Natalie mentioned Natalie, myself, my brother, like all these entrepreneurs slowly are realizing, like, hey, social media isn't a fad. It's not going away. Like, maybe I should invest in it and have a presence on Facebook or Instagram or Snap. Maybe not Snapchat so much here yet, but they're gonna get there.
We had a Snapchat filter last year.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you guys did some great stuff. But the challenge is like there was still, if we're at 5%, there's still 95% that don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So then here's what I do is I ask myself, who has access to the 95%?
Right.
So who does?
Well, the schools, the teachers.
No, the entrepreneurial community. Who has the access to 95% of the entrepreneurs in the community?
You? No.
I probably have a good percentage, but I don't have 95.
Yeah.
There's a ton of old dudes that don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, the Chambers of
I call
Commerce.
them the OGs, the original gangsters. They may hear about me once in a while, but they don't really know who I am. The gray hairs. Who really run the city, honestly. Chamber of Commerce, yes, but even Chamber, I feel like they don't have 100%. Who has got 95%? I'll tell you a big one community that actually just had their event, the JA community.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. They have 1,000 of the entrepreneurs from all across the province go to that event, and it is that's the people I don't have access to. JA, right? Like their community of New Brunswick, they got it. So I would say if you got the JA and then number 2 and 3 from that list, you would get access to 95% of the community. What would stop you from working with them to get in front of their audience? What do you think they would want?
What they want.
Because they also have access to the kids too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it competitive?
Well, I mean, I think the the reality is that the entrepreneurial ecosystem is competitive in New Brunswick.
Cool.
And the not-for-profit ecosystem is also competitive. So yes, but there's also a lot of collaboration, which is sort of an interesting beast.
The question I always ask myself is, how can I support them? Because like the JA program is totally different than what you're doing.
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, you both have the same challenge, which is getting in front of the audience. As a group of people, if you say like, you know, I think New Brunswick has a business council, like there are like 12 entrepreneurs in the province that really represent the entrepreneurial interest. I feel like somebody, that's actually another group that PS FYI you should get to know, right? And they're really great people. When I launched Clarity, they were there to support me.
Okay.
I feel like that curation of getting in front and adding value, because really it's about adding value. You do things that they don't do very well, right? Like they don't 100%. Do social media.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting. But see, that's where I would focus my time. I'm such a like a network deconstructor. Like I figure out like who are the 10 people that have access to 95% of the community.
Yeah.
How do I add value to their lives so that I can get them to support me in getting the message out? But it has to happen way before you ever ask for anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who else would be on that list?
I mean, one organization that we do a lot of work with is Brilliant Labs.
That you don't.
That we don't do a lot of work with?
Yeah.
We have a lot of partners in the community. So like in my mind, the people who would have access to these folks would be people like Brilliant Labs or Venn Center or Planet Hatch in Fredericton. And you know, as we go up north, the CBDCs are very influential. And so
are they
connected with
promoting
all
your
of them.
events?
Some more than others, but they're all listed as partners.
So the way so here's what I would do. Spreadsheet, column called status.
Yeah.
And status is kind of like, or even ranking or value or whatever you want to call it, like 1 out of 10. 10 meanings that you give them a press release, they send it as a blast to their whole network.
Yeah.
And even better, 10 means that they send out your content to their community. So like one thing I do when I do speaking, which I do very little because of the travel constraint, is one of my requirements is for them to send my content to their registered attendees before I show up, so that I can build a relationship. Now that's strategic, right?
Contacts,
so I would call that a 10, and then kind of like an 8 would be that they would share your event coming up. You know what I mean? So then, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Oh, it's so good.
I had like 3 coffees before I got here, so I don't know if you can see my hand shaking, but
That's perfect. We're on the same page. So that to me would be a big like list, and if you made that list, and I've done this many times, when I launched Clarity, I hired somebody full-time to do the research, and they made a list of like, and I'll share it with you if it's just old, of every entrepreneurial program in around, I think we did Atlantic Canada.
yeah.
Everything from like the university programs to whatever, and it was hand-to-hand combat, like just straight up like email, phone number, etc. I want to talk to you because like they you know, they're not going to do an email response. It's like they want a phone call. You want to talk to them. You want to explain to them your why. They got to build a connection. Then it's like, hey, how do I help your guys' organization here? And then not even just how, because I was actually just saying this to another entrepreneur. That's a lazy question, super lazy question. It's here are the things that we do really well, and here's the thing specifically I think I can help you guys with. If you become the person that helps them with the other areas that they're not good at, and I don't know what that is, it could be social, it could be curriculum structure, it could be running the events, right?
Yeah.
And the cool part is it's super high leverage. So like if you say, look, every month I organize a webinar where I teach how to run an event, and if you want to send your event person to it, I'll coach them myself.
Yeah.
That's like low, you know, we're talking Google Hangouts.
Yeah. We actually do that with some of our
Zoom.
champions
Perfect.
right now.
So you add that to all the other groups, just like as a best practice like ecosystem. The back end's running great events, but the byproduct is building relationship and adding value to people that when you're ready to say like, hey, we're now doing this competition, here's some assets that we put together. And I even go as far as like, you know, with some of my partner launches, because I'm thinking like this is just like a partner thing. So when I've built companies and partner with like MailChimp or Constant Contact or Icon, like when we were doing Flowtown, we provided them with emails, blog copy, design the visuals, like the co-branded banner ads. Like we created all the assets, so all they had to do is copy paste. Right?
Yeah.
So and it's 80-20. When you look at your partners, 20% are going to drive the rest of it. Those are the ones where you want to make sure that you spend the time with.
Yeah.
If you did that in 3 years, like if you said this is the way we're going to get distribution, is just focus on building and creating value for those people. Like one thing I do is I have a private Facebook group.
Yeah.
I gotta be careful what I share because some of this stuff is like super ninja stuff. But
I won't tell anybody, I promise.
But no, but like I'll deconstruct. I'll like kind of go a little high level. But the concept is like if I wanted to be one of the world's best AI investors. Let's say I was like, you know what, AI is my space. I want to become the world's best. The easiest thing for me to do is to research all the top AI entrepreneurs, create a Facebook group, invite all of them to it, and then this is what I would do, because this is what I do in my other secret group, is I interview each person every week, and I publish the interview to the group, private.
Right.
So they're the value to each other. All I did was curate it, and I interview them, so the content isn't even like hard to get because they're in the community, and it adds value to their world because then they get highlighted within the group for other people to understand what they're working on, and then it creates a really great sense of community.
Yeah.
If that's all you did for those partners is amongst themselves, help them get clear about what they do and brought awareness to their thing within the whole landscape, you're the person that did that. And trust me, when you have that once a year thing that you need to get distribution on, you know, they would have to be an evil person not to do it. Right? And they may be, and that's okay, right? But that's what I would do. I would go all in on that. If you did 3 years of focused energy on just building that network, you would create something that would be super competitive in the sense that nobody else has that.
So,
and I see Nancy Mathis do this.
Oh yeah,
she's like fabulous. With her newsletter,
she's
like
really
she was the first person all New Brunswick to have a newsletter for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Crazy idea.
Yeah.
And it takes her probably 30 minutes to put it together. The Fast Five or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
For years now. Like no government organization, there's nothing fancy. Like she curates it. And maybe 3 times in the last 5 years, she was there for me because I also was the guy sending her, hey, there's this really cool thing going on you probably don't know about.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of like add value by curating.
So that makes sense from an engagement perspective. Now, what about a revenue perspective, right? Because, okay, that'll create demand and all of that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, money makes the world go round.
Well, you're talking my language. I just have a adversity to a lot of programs that don't care about revenue. And the reason why is because if you don't care about revenue, you don't care about serving people, because there's a direct correlation to
absolutely
people revenue. Like if you charge $1 a month for what you do and you have 100 people, it's revenue.
Yep.
If you're making $1 million a month or 10 million a month or 100 million a month, it means you're serving 100 million people. I like that.
Yep.
It doesn't mean it has to make money. It can be a nonprofit. It can be a break even or whatever, but the higher the revenue line, the more people you serve. Nobody can debate that. That's just a pure fundraiser. Nonprofits do it through like amount funded, cost per meal. This is how many meals we were able to deliver this year. Great. But for a non-for-profit kind of like B Corp, top line revenue matters, and it should matter like it should for any normal business.
Absolutely.
First question you got to answer is, who's your customer? Who do you want to sell something to? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, shouldn't be selling stuff. Change the word sell to serve. Who do you want to serve the most?
I want to serve. I see what we do as an economic driver in the community.
Yep.
You know, we do what we do for the kids to help them realize their potential. So in the short term, that's the investment that we're making. In the long term, we're investing in New Brunswick. And so I guess we're serving the kids, but also our economy, so everybody, which I know is, you know, kind of a cop-out if you're talking target market, but essentially that's what's happening, right? We're retaining youth, we're creating entrepreneurs.
Who's got money that you want to serve?
I mean, where we are right now is we have.
Who's got money?
Yeah.
It's funny because I see what you're about to do. Who's got money that you want to serve? It's like when an entrepreneur comes to me and they're like, yeah, I do a lot of stuff. And I'm like, well, you got to pick a customer. They're like, well, I don't know who to pick. And I'm like, well, it's easy. You make a list of everybody that makes you the most money. And you make a list of everybody you like to work with. And you look for the names on both lists. And you circle them. And that's your new target customer. Like it's.
Yeah.
So we can just answer those two questions. Who's got money, disposable income, budgets, and that you love to serve? Because you can love to serve somebody that doesn't have money, it doesn't help the business. It doesn't mean that the business doesn't help those people either. That's the cool part.
Right. I don't even know how to answer that right now, though.
Why? What's the block? What are you worried about saying? What's the thing you don't want to say?
You're a pain in the butt.
You know what I'm talking about. What do you not want to say?
I don't know that it's something that I don't want to say. I think it's more.
What's the thing you're not saying that you know you should say? When I ask that question.
I don't know who has money that I love to serve. I truly like. I love working with young people. I love seeing those lights go off. I love walking into a classroom and working with a teacher.
What kind of revenue do you need to make a year?
Well, right now our annual is about 120.
Perfect. So like,
which is super lean though.
So let's call it 300 because that's probably a more appropriate number, right? Especially if you want to 10x it over the next 3 years, because you should.
Yeah.
So then maybe it's a lot more. The kids, even though you love to work with them, are not going to be able to invest at a level that's going to sustain you.
Yeah.
So they're not the customer. So that just makes it an easy, like, okay, they're not the customer. Then you just got to look at the value chain of other areas you can add value that does have money.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be
well, but then we're
a
talking
high net
about
worth
government.
individual,
Yeah.
or it's going to be a business, or it could be government.
Which I'm trying to break free from.
So when I
because
said
it's not
that you love to
sustainable.
serve, I'm pretty sure you don't. If you don't, you're breaking free for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So then, what's your other option? The cool part is you just pick the customer. We'll figure something to sell them. We'll sell them something.
I would love to involve post-secondary a little bit more. I think that there's a lot of value to be gained from them, or for them rather.
Are they government?
Some are, some aren't. They have their own independent budgets.
Cool.
I think CCNB and NBCC are directly government, but everything else is pretty much.
Is there enough need there to build a 300 million or 300,000? Sorry, I'm just dealing with tech startups.
I mean, I'm okay with 300 million, but
it's actually sometimes
really scale the
easier
impact.
to focus on the big stuff. Is there enough budget there within their, like, you're obviously going to do something around entrepreneurship for them, or ideation, or something.
Yeah.
Do you think there's enough of a budget in the Atlantic region?
So I think so.
Why not sell to companies? You have a decision. You could sell to post-secondary, or you could sell to businesses.
But so I've been sitting on this idea because I think when I look at the value that we provide to young people, it's allowing them to be creative around problems, right? Whatever those problems are. One thing that that I find is underused is sort of the resource of kids' creativity.
Perfect.
So I've been sitting on this idea of engaging the business community and essentially asking what their challenges are, what their problems are, and building little mini youth focus groups. So there's obviously a value add in there.
I like it. I like it because it incorporates kind of the core mission and the audience that you're building. The challenge, the thing that I would go validate would be how many of those companies actually have that demographic as a customer to need focus groups with. The other thing is, one thing I'm a big fan of is, how do I design a business model that gets me paid every month? So I kind of always start with the revenue that I'd like to, so let's say, there's only, I don't know how many thousand, there's 600,000 people, it's like probably 10% or whatever, I don't know, maybe call it 50,000 businesses in New Brunswick. How many could I sell them something, and then how many of them would pay, like, ideally $500 a month, right? Once I know it's $500 a month, then I ask myself, what value can I create to make them feel like that's a really great deal? And usually it's a 10 to 1. I always like to think, like, how can I create 10 times more value than the investment that they're making? So $5,000 a month. So it's kind of like, that's kind of strategy. I mean, you've got resources, you've got kind of a market, you know that, like, it's going to be a slog selling a $10 a month kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know you've got expertise, you've got all these kind of like pieces. How do you package them up in a way so that you can, you know, create enough value that really comes across like as a no-brainer? So what is that for the business? Post-secondary, it's kind of like, to me, post-secondary is going to come on board if you sell the business.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think there's two different things. You want to pick one.
Okay.
You want to have one thing. Like most of my clients, the funniest thing I do with them is I call it, you know, tell me about 3, but pick one.
Right.
Everybody thinks they have 3 customers, small, medium, and large. And the reason why is because they don't want to say no to the small, because small has supported them. They really don't want to pick one because they don't want to say no. But in truth, each one of them requires a different value prop, a different marketing plan, a different operational plan, a different delivery plan, different set of needs. Like they're different. Like a 1-person business has different needs than a 25-person business. So whatever you build, if you want to charge $25 or $500 a month as a kind of like, and it's kind of like the residue of the business, the thing we do has a byproduct, and we're going to package that byproduct. It's kind of like some of these the microbrewers actually sell some of their waste to like to do bio stuff, right? And that's like a revenue line for the microbrews to be able to like leverage their byproduct. So like what you want to do is say, okay, we've got this output in the business that we can redirect and monetize, and it's 100% aligned, right?
Yeah.
So the more you do here, the more you do there.
Right.
Right? It's like Clarity. The more calls we did, the more money was getting donated to charity.
Yeah.
So it's like 100% aligned. But like you got to sell something first. So
Yeah.
really the contest has to be, it's kind of like when you do an event, it's like the event seats that people pay are essentially a wash to the sponsors where you actually make the money. So usually you charge enough seats to cover your overhead costs, and then the sponsors make the money.
Yeah.
The event is going to be a wash, and you're going to make the operating budget from the thing you sell.
Yeah.
How many events do you do a year?
We do only the one.
The one big one.
The one paid. That's the only one that we sell tickets to.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you don't have really a staff the rest of the year.
It's me, 12 months a year, and then I have.
Would you want to do the business part of the back end of this full time? Because it's a business.
I think so.
Somebody would need to say yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea of growing this to something more than just New Brunswick.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the idea of having kids solve problems for
big companies.
Community.
This
big
is a real
companies.
thing. This
Yeah.
is a real thing. Millennials, Gen Y, whatever you want to call them, like this is a real thing. And companies care.
So that version, my answer is yes.
Okay, so to make that it, I didn't see post-secondary in that answer. So
Yeah.
like, it's funny how like if we can just get clear, you're gonna get there faster and
Yeah.
with more excitement. You're
Absolutely.
smiling now. You weren't
Yeah.
smiling when you were talking about post.
I know, I'm like-
yeah, post-secondary. I think there's something. It's like no, because there's just that's what I love about markets. They're so free, and like when you
Yeah.
nail it, they love it. Like man, there's nothing better than selling something to somebody that really want it and say, where have you been my whole life, and it's gonna like save me a bunch of time in my business. So if we had more time, that would be where I would focus. Is we now know who the core customer is. We now know that's going to be a byproduct of essentially doing this thing. This thing's a wash that covers overhead, and to build the 300,000 a year economic engine to support this thing.
Yeah.
And really, it could be 3 million, 30 million if it's truly kind of like, you know, essentially it's a non-for-profit agency that leverages the competition to build the network of the kids that we then present as a little mini X to help support business, and that's how we fund it, which would be a beautiful thing and a case study to be examined, right? Because nobody's really figured that out.
Yeah.
But somebody's gonna have to focus on this agency thing. And when it comes to building agency, I have a ton of content on that. You got to pick one thing, and you got to charge for the strategic part of it, right? And I
Yeah.
call that a roadmap, because without charging for that strategic thing, you'll spend a lot of time on proposal writing and, you know, people just smiling saying, yeah, we love this. And you're like, yeah, we'll take out your credit card. Does that help?
It does a lot,
Awesome.
actually.
All right, Sarah, give me a hug.
Thank you.
Appreciate you doing what you do.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. It's inspiring.
Yeah. So today I was hoping to sit down with Dan and get some clarity on how to create a sustainable and scalable version of the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. We started talking about all kinds of different things and really established who the customer needs to be for us, which I'm really excited about. He's given me a lot to think about in terms of where we need to go and some of the strategy that needs to be put in place. So I'm really stoked to get started and to sort of put some of those thoughts on paper.